Hello, Sönke. It's amazing to see you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. It's always a pleasure to meet you. And I'm so glad that I have gotten the chance to have you on the podcast. After few months, I don't know, maybe a year, I am lost the span of time, but it was so good to see you again. And for those people who don't know, obviously you will get a chance to talk, introduce yourself. But let me introduce again from my side. So I know Sönke from my times at a previous company that we both worked. I really enjoyed every single time that we used to work together and have conversations and meetings. And something kind of stayed with me when I left that company and I moved on that, I need to go back to this person again. I need to understand their life journey to get inspiration, also learn, which I hopefully will do more in the future, but really learn your history, your experience, your journey. And I had found a bits of things in my past when I had interacted with you that there is something there which I would love to explore whenever I get a chance. And finally, I'm getting a chance in November in a beautiful Berlin weather. I think you're in Brandenburg, which is
Yeah.
always a great place to live and enjoy living. But long story short, it was amazing to see you, and it's always amazing to see you. I want to talk to you today for the next hour and a half, try to explore your journey, inspire people, get to maybe things which are unique and interesting that you want to share with people, and we will see where it takes us.
Hi, Vivek. Yeah, pleasure. Thank you so much. Great to be with you.
The way I get started here, Sönke, is if you can maybe choose to introduce yourself, not like a interview like a job interview, but something that you feel people should know about you before they start getting more into details about your experience and journey. So what is the thing that you would want to start with? Where is the starting point of your journey?
If you talk about my professional journey, the starting point, I think it's all about like, I think for me in my life and also professional work, it's really about making connections between people. Getting to know people, understanding people, find the different, what are the different, so if you see people as a Lego system, like Lego brick system, which different parts match together, how can they connect together, how do they build something together. So I never thought about this, but it's jumped now into my mind when I'm talking to you. This is like, so my life is all about connections and understanding how people can connect together and build something great. I was born in Bremen. I don't know if you know Bremen. It's one of the Hansestädte in Germany. So this is the cities that are their own counties in Germany. So it's close to Hamburg, quite close to the Northern Sea. So my dad was an electrician. He has had his own company. My mom started working very early again, but at the university in Bremen as well. So and this is I think this is where also my technical interest came from. So my mom it was checking metals. Let's make an example. If a satellite is falling down to Earth and it's because of the metal broke, her company was checking the rockets and the satellites to see why did the metal break. Also, the big steel industries, and you're from India, Vivek, right? So the big steel industries, even over there, if there is something going wrong with the steel, this is being checked by her institute in the university. So you see, like with the dad as an electrician and my mom in research, you can see probably where my interest in science comes from.
Wow. I think we can go in that rabbit hole pretty soon, but let's keep going, right? So tell me more about your journey coming to the profession the career that you are in. Maybe the few critical points that you remember that you want to share with the people.
Fun fact is, I wanted never to study computer science, so what I studied. So before my studies, I just didn't know what to do. And then my stepfather came over and said, "Hey, what about computer science?" And it was the 90s. Everyone was talking about green cards, so people from India, again, like we do now, but it was the same time. We needed people in computer science. And then I just said, okay, why not? Friends are living in this little town. It's Lübeck. It's close to Hamburg at the Baltic Sea. I said, why not? Let's do it. And then during my studies, I was not very good in probability mathematics. This was for me too unlogical, you know. So I said like, why should I do this? And then I was really about to quit my studies and become a waiter in a restaurant, to be very honest.
Wow.
Because I always did this on the side, interacting with humans. You see again, there is a little red line through my life, so I really enjoyed that. But let's take it like that. Obviously, it was the better choice to do my studies, so I applied as an intern at Sony, and this brought me to Berlin, and then yeah, career started. So it was really so my whole life wasn't planned. The different steps, the different stages, but I was always lucky to meet the right people, to connect with the right people, find people that understand me, what I need to be happy and successful, and also help others to be successful. Yeah.
I think we should definitely take some time to really come back to this interesting point that you're mentioning about, connecting people. I think I'm assuming there are some individuals who have played a very important role, like anybody's life, but I would love to come to that in a moment. Tell me more. What happened next?
Yeah, I think with Sony it was before I ended my computer science studies. So I did my internship there. Um, it was more about project management. So we did multi projects within Sony Europe, and then I applied at Yamba Jamster. In UK it was Jamster, in Germany it was Yamba, and I think most of the people in our age are familiar with that. So it was the ringtone company that flooded the world with ringtones on the feature phones. Yeah, and I think this is where the interesting piece of my career started. So I became technical project manager, and then with the people that I met there, most of the people were the people that really helped me within my career, helped me to the next steps, support me. So I think one of the most, if you talk about career, one of the most important people that I met was Jens Begemann, who founded Vuga, a gaming company later. So I stayed at Jamba, was quite happy with what I did here in the project management. And then Jens and Philip, who both worked at Jamba. So Philip in my department, like he was one of my leads, and Jens was, I think it was the chief product officer at that time. They founded Vuga, a gaming company, and after a couple of months, I followed them with some other colleagues that also worked for Yamba, and we are still friends today. And then, quite interesting, I did technical project management, but was never in, let's say, business development or strategy or strategic partnerships. What I do now, or what I did in the rest until now, but. There was some not so positive time in my life, in my private life, and I think um, Jens saw it or he understood it. I don't know, but I got the chance at that time to take over all the strategic partnerships with Facebook, Apple, and Google, and I had the opportunity that really was changing my life to flew every other month or once a quarter to San Francisco to meet with the partners. It was when Facebook started building their platform. You remember that there was no Facebook payments. They had Facebook coins. We were able to test all the different APIs with Facebook that when the feed came up, the first photos you can post in feed, that was the very early stages when Facebook was still in the garage. Same with Google. Google started their social networks. Apple just launched their App Store. There was no App Store before. So this was the time when I had the opportunity really to test out these products and to connect our product team with their product teams to start split testing and A/B testing. Even that was, I think, that was in 2000. Let me think about it. 2009, I started my career there, and it was the interesting time when no one knew about split testing, A/B testing, data analysis, data-driven decision making. These are all words that are normal nowadays, should be normal nowadays. All of us know they are not in some companies. This is why they need people like us. But no, but that was the time where that started, and Vuga was on the very forefront at that time to do data-driven analysis, data-driven product decisions, and this is also where one of my mantras came from in my life. I learned that this was something Jens brought up, Jens Begemann at that time, But I never forgot that and always mention that when I have talks. It's important to use data to drive decisions, but it's also important to use your heart and your stomach feeling. So I would never say that a company should only do make decisions based on data. I think it's important to inform you with data, but you always need to drive innovation, to drive successful products. And if you don't want to stay on the same level, if you want to grow, you need this mix of heart and brain. And this was always part of our presentations at Vuga. We always had the heart and the brain because with only one part, you will never be successful or drive and build new products and innovation, right? Yeah.
Sönke, I know I would love to continue the journey, but one thing just kind of popped up in my head when you were talking about this experience of yourself. And by the way, that mantra is interesting. We'll spend a lot of time there. I was taking a note of that. I think you mentioned about being at an early stage where the Silicon Valley giants today were very in the initial part of the journey. I think you mentioned about Google, you mentioned about Facebook, and you had, I'm assuming, like a front row seat on that evolution, what was happening in Silicon Valley in the US while being in Germany, driving this partnership. And what I'm keen to understand from you is what was your take at that time between how technology was shaping in Germany versus what was happening in Silicon Valley? Because today we talk a lot about tech in EU is works at a different scale, it's behind. I mean, you can spend a lot of time debating on that. But what was your vantage point at that time?
To A, I would just coming back to your last sentence because that drives me a little bit nuts when people say we are behind in Europe. I think what does behind mean, right? I think we have the same technology than Americans have or people in China have. We have the same technology. I think it's more about we are too, and especially in Germany, we are a little bit too careful. I would say it's really about, of course, it's important not me as a German saying that it's important not to jump on every train, not to do everything that is just modern. We remember that it was all about blockchain 5 years ago. Everything needed to have a blockchain. But we know now blockchain is a very, very important innovation. But now we understood it's important to understand where do we need blockchain and which depth, right? So, and the same, then we had the big fintech thing. Everything needs to be fintech, blah, blah, blah. And now we have AI, and we know that AI is nothing that will go away. But I think now it's important for us to understand where to use it. And coming back to your question, I think I think we need a little bit more risk takers in Germany. So I think what will make us more successful or as successful as we've been historically in terms of economy, I think we need to have a good mix of our German um, carefulness. Let me phrase it positively. Let me say carefulness. I think it's even worse sometimes that people are against innovation in some areas in Germany. But let's say carefulness and the risk takers that people in America do. I think that's also something that I don't think is positive because they don't think about where does technology help us and not hinder us, right? I think technology is made for helping humans and not only humans, helping the world to become better, to make things easier, to potentially help our Mother Earth to go to a state where it's not getting worse for our Earth and our environment. And technology is not here to be against humans, right? And I think this is like being in the middle, and this is our chance in Europe. And this is why I don't think that our European Parliament is so bad. It can be better, but I think some rules for especially AI is really important. And I hope that we in Europe and in Germany we're gonna find this balance between taking more risk, but also before taking the risk, thinking about where can things really help us and where is which technology used. So long answer to your question, but this drives me, I think a lot about that, what is going wrong. And going back to the times we talked about when in 2009, I think what was really special at that time is that we had companies and founders in Germany you see Jens Begemann at VUGA, for example, and the Zamba brothers that did found Yamba, then founded Alando, sold it to eBay, and then founded Zalando, where both of us worked. This is, by the way, where the word, I think the word Zalando comes from. But you had risk takers at that time, and they were doing a lot, forcing the government to support. But bringing that to the times today, it's now 15 years. Yeah, 15 years later, and the government didn't change, and that's really bad, right? So going to that, what do we need in Germany question, we had, and this is why it's so interesting, we had Angela Merkel visiting us in our offices because we were one of the companies that they love to show on TV, that they love to show to other politicians, because we had this Silicon Valley vibe in terms of open office space. It looked like at Google, we had a playground, everything was colorful. You could eat 10 different types of cereals, and it was very un-German and un-normal at that time. But Merkel was there, and I think all of us were hoping that politics and economy changes faster, but I think some things need to take time. Germans are not made for change. They don't love it. Central Europeans don't love it that much. And we try to, and then I want to stop talking about this piece, but I think in Germany and Europe, we can't let things go. I think it's important to keep your heritage. I think it's quite important to keep traditions. This is what makes different parts of the world unique, and this is why all of us love to travel, because people keep their heritage and their traditions. But you need to think about how to modernize traditions and heritage, and I think this is something that takes too long, and we see that now in the crisis, right? But at that time, going back again to 2009, I was really, really glad about that companies in the Silicon Valley, and Google was already established, right? Apple was in 2009 back to new highs after the lows they had before Steve Jobs was gone and then came back. And Facebook was completely new. All of us had the feeling Facebook was going to something, but what Facebook did always very well, and Google then, my friends at Google they can tell me after they listen to this podcast if I'm right or wrong, but Facebook was extraordinarily well in building partnerships teams. Google wasn't that open at that times with APIs. They haven't had that many APIs at that time. If they had them, they were not that open as Facebook was, and Apple was at that time never open. All of us know that also changed over time, but Facebook, I think, opened the tech industry for partnerships, strategic partnerships, learning from your customers, learning from partners, opening up technology platforms very early to critical mass and collecting data. And Facebook was, from my perspective, and still is, but Facebook was, from my perspective, one of the big drivers for data-driven analysis and product management and engineering, because they brought it to perfection in terms of how they get the data, how they get feedback from partner companies like us at that times. And this is also, I think, one of the ingredients to the growth success of Facebook. It's not only and friends at Facebook, I'm sorry what I say now, I don't think that the app of Facebook and the web is the best product in the world from a product manager perspective, but it works. From a data perspective, it works, and success is known that Facebook grow that much. And I think this is what was very, very interesting for me and for my colleagues in product management at VUGA, that we had the chance to give feedback and also shaping their products.
If you look back now from 2024, 15 years ago to 2009, I think that's where we paused, right, the journey, and we'll definitely come back to that.
So it was, let's say it was 2009 and 2013, 14.
Okay. Yeah. So let's say last 10, 15 years. What has changed from your lens in technology in Germany, in Europe, especially in high tech, in digital space from your perspective? Like, what comes to your mind when you start thinking about that last 10, 15 years?
I think let me start with something, and you know that I love also to talk about the negative things. So let me start with that briefly. I think what didn't change is people in Europe didn't understand what is the key factor of success, or was the key factor of success in Silicon Valley. And I say was because I think this they also lost this inner core that they had before in Silicon Valley. The inner core in Silicon Valley was always openness. So as a founder, you had no issue to sit in a little bar in San Francisco and talk with strangers about your idea. And you got feedback from other engineers, you got feedback from other entrepreneurs. People are very open with their ideas um, without the fear that someone steals their ideas. So a friend of mine during that time was Bastian Lehman. He was the founder of Postmates. I don't know if you know Postmates. Bastian is a German guy, moved over to San Francisco and then founded Postmates. And on the one hand, he's an Elon Musk fan that I don't like, but he's still a good friend of mine. And Bastian always told me that this is the secret ingredient. And in my times in Silicon Valley, I think this was the interesting piece. People openly shared their ideas and were open for feedback and used that feedback to grow. Strangers met in a bar or in a garage, what they always say, but I think for most of them it was a bar and not a garage. I think garage story is just nicer, maybe. But and this was something that was never possible in Germany, and I think still, or in Europe, and I think still, you can build as many incubators as you do. Let's take an example. I think it was a Korean neighbor company that also supported the Station F in Paris, right? So the French government and the French tech scene opened up, and I was at that opening years ago because Korea from Korea invited me there, and you cannot open an incubator and you cannot open something for startups, just pull them in a room and then you think magic happens. No, this is not the result of it. Doesn't
Hmm.
It's not enough to bring great people together. It's about the culture that you build. It's about the openness in an environment that you build. And if people are afraid that someone steals the ideas, if people are afraid of leadership or something else, the magic won't happen. You can have the best people in the room, and I think this is something that we could have done, learned better in Europe. And what the US could have done is um, keep this, keep this inner core of openness in Silicon Valley. And it's now 6 years when I've been last there, but what I hear from friends, it's going away, and this is why we don't see that many innovations. Oh, that's my hunch, right? But that's my hunch. This is why there are not that many innovations happening. You have just the big five, maybe companies there that are potentially too huge to drive innovation. Question mark. But also these little companies are not growing. That's from my perspective, because people are just fed up. They have enough money on the one hand, and on the other hand, there is not these environments anymore where ideas can be built. But that's my takeaway from what I've learned. Right?
I would love to go back to this point that you mentioned. Like, hey, we still don't know what are the key factors of that success. You mentioned about openness, you mentioned about access to ideas and people. You talked about spaces a bit, right? Whether it's a bar or a garage or whatever. What else do you think was a key or among the key factors for that success?
Of course, we talked about that piece, the willingness to take risks, right? So, and the willingness, and this is, I think, I forgot the name, but Facebook started with or making the word failing something positive. I think they did went too far at a certain point in stage when every engineer thought, okay, it's not a problem when I submit something that's broken. Of course, that's a problem, especially in critical environments. But I think this risk-taking mantra and failing is nothing negative. That you learn from your failures and from your mistakes. I think this is a culture, or this is for every environment where you want to build something successful. I think that's the foundation where everyone has to agree that if I do mistakes and learn from those mistakes and don't do the same again and again. Of course, that's important. I think if you have that as a foundation, then bring the right people in. People have trust, and without trust, you don't share information, or you don't share your ideas with others, right? And if you can build this environment, you can do magic, right? And all of us have seen that historically in our companies we work for. Then suddenly magic happens, and you don't need a team of 200 people. I think you can have the same success with just, let's say, a quarter of that, if it's the right people with the right magic.
Absolutely. Let's keep going. 2009, I think 2013. Take us forward.
Yeah, Vuga, amazing time. I had the opportunity to meet amazing people. I think this is was still the little seed in my network that was planted at that time. So the people that I met are still part of my network, are still friends, and my network grew out of that. So see it as the bean rank that grew out of this bean, this little seed at that time. And yeah, in a certain point in time, it was just. And you see that in my career. You might ask me, "Hey, Sönke, usually you stay with the company 3, 4, 5 years, and then you move on. Why don't you stay longer?" And I think for me, it's just important. I love to build things. I love to analyze why things don't work. I love to connect people. And it was just time for me to move on and to do something new, and to use the knowledge that I learned at Vuga, and bring it to the next level, to learn more in certain areas. And when I have the feeling I can learn more, and with this new knowledge support others, it's time for me to move on. I think this is, at least historically, we talk about today later. But and then I had the opportunity to go to IM. So IM was, for those who don't know, it's a photo sharing platform, not similar, and I don't say like Instagram, but it's a photo. It was still is alive. It was a photo sharing platform for photographers, for iPhoneographers, to make money with their photos. So IM gave people like you and me the chance to upload their mobile photos, but also professional photos from your digicam, and then sell it on platforms like, for example, Getty Images, or directly to brands that want to use those photos. And here I connected the network that I had in the Silicon Valley, because it was again an app. So it was again something where I can work with Apple, Facebook, Google. I could build up my network, grow my network at that time, that also helped these guys to grow in that areas. And it was also the first time where I got in touch, quite interestingly, with AI. And I don't use the word AI from now on again anymore, because all of us know that it's not AI. When you say AI, all of us know it's machine learning, right? The big gap between proper AI and machine learning. So if I don't want that someone says later, "Oh, Sönke always said AI." So if I say by mistake AI, I mean machine learning. And that was interesting, because the engineering team, built an algorithm with computer vision that understood aesthetics in photos. And you can understand, of course, it's still machine learning and no AI. All of us know that. But what was so interesting for me, being in strategic partnerships, is you could train, with a quite small set of photos, you could train the algorithm. And then let's make an example. You have a pile of photos, of millions of photos. And you as a brand, let's say Coca-Cola, has a certain brand aesthetic. So just with a handful of photos of that brand, the algorithm could learn which photos would match to your next campaign. And then out of those millions of photos, the gold nuggets are being found, and then we could sell those to brands. And this is where we started building up a product. It was not, let's say, 100% finished when I left, but the algorithm works quite well. And now it's a separate spin-off company, these guys, what they do. But this was really, really interesting for me, because, again, what I did, I learned from what Facebook did with partnerships, to work with partners, with B2B partners, to grow their products. And this is what I then used at IM. We want to build a B2B product. So the best way is to work with a brand to build it up. And in our case, it was the Boston Consulting Group. they needed new photos for a new campaign. They relaunched their whole brand identity at that time globally, the whole website. They needed tons of content for presentations and for everything. You had a global company where you get feedback. So we built our B2B product together with them and with their feedback from their consultants. And that was quite interesting. So I took the learning that I learned from Facebook and their partnerships and applied it in my own work, I would say, right? So that was amazing times. The company, in the meantime, Huga was sold to another company, to Playtika, as it's still part of that company. I think Playtika. If that's wrong, Vivek, you cut that out later. Just tell you. But no, but no, but it was sort of Playtika, and IAM is not. It's still up and running right now, but it's not as big anymore. And in my times at Vuga, I met amazing people, as I said, Jens Begemann and Philipp Möser, the founders, but also Stephanie Kaiser, who is now very successful in entrepreneurship and in also supporting German government and digitalization, which is quite cool what they do here, Philipp and Steffi. And then also two other friends that worked in finance. And they started in a different startup, Idagio. It's a mobile streaming app for classical music. And I said, why not? Let's go there. So I know, I trust you guys, and it's again all about trust. I trust you guys, and I take the risk and go and follow you, right? And then I worked for a couple of years for Idagio. Let's face it like that. Amazing team, amazing platform, amazing idea, but the goal that they were, let me see, like that, the outcome was, it wasn't Apple didn't buying us. Apple bought a different company and then bought Apple Music Classical. So this could have been one of the ways, but Apple then built their own Apple Classical Music, which is a great product. I use it on my own right now, but of course there is then, you don't need another niche product. It's still up and running, but it's not, let's say, it won't be the next streaming platform out there, right? But for me, that was a very interesting times because I could again use my knowledge from the previous companies, grow network, look in a complete different vertical. It was all about mobile entertainment. If you look back at my career until that time, so it started with ringtones, then it moved to games, and then it moved to music. So it's all about mobile entertainment, web first, feature phones, and then really following the whole career of the mobile involvement of mobile phones and mobile technology. And yeah, I think then it was covered that all of us happened, unfortunately. And this was the point in time where for me it was like, oh, what should I do? Changing career. Is there something new? I had a little bit of time, just not a long time, a couple of weeks to think about what's the next step in my career. And then I think you, Vivek, I think you remember Arno Wolter. He's one of my best friends, and I think you were walking or running in Tiergarten, and I walked with Arno, and then I met you, and Arno said, "Hey, that's Vivek. He's working for Fit and blah, blah." And then there was an open position, and I applied, and I think the rest you know as well as I know. I had the opportunity to go in a complete different vertical, so it wasn't about mobile, but it was about helping people, was about connecting people, was about business strategy, but also very customer centric, really solving problems that customers have, right? So going very deep into the connection, not only between colleagues, but also between technology and customers and consumers. And yeah, this is what I really love doing there with a great team, obviously. Yeah.
I would love to go into that Zalando story and what you're doing right now, but I have two things that I would love to get a bit of thoughts from you. So I made a note of two things. One is mobile entertainment. The other thing I made a note of is strategic partnership. And if you bookmark this journey at the moment, and we'll come to that bookmark in a moment, if someone is thinking about really from first principles, what does it take to do strategic partnerships right? What What comes to your mind?
Okay, so I think we need to unwrap this a little bit, this word. I think it all goes down to, I only use the word strategic partnerships because this is how Facebook, and again, this is where it comes from. This is how Facebook called their teams, their business teams, and also their engineering teams. It was all about strategic partnerships, which means, if you unwrap it, it means finding the right partners to grow, right? Strategic partnerships. So it's not like with every partner, but finding the right ones from a strategic perspective to grow. And how I see that, if you ask me what's the proper name for that, it's business development, if you want to phrase it like that, right? It's the next level of business development. And your question is, what does it take? So first of all, to everyone who listens to this podcast, business development does not equal sales. Sales is not business development. So I don't know how often I've said that in my career to headhunters or to people that reached out to me, or when I applied. As a salesperson, you sell a ready product. It's the vacuum cleaner that is built, ready for mass production. Sell it. You sell the API for a fixed amount of money, for a subscription, done. Business development, and this is why I still use the word strategic partnerships or strategic business development, it's really about how to grow your company to the next level. What's the business strategy to grow? What are the right partners that I need on my hand to grow? Is it enough to have, let's make an example, to have one great influencer that works with you to grow your business on a marketing level? Potentially not, right? But how do you get this right people around you, these right partnerships? And I think, back to your question, I think there is certain things you can learn. So the part of business development, the foundation you can learn, it's of course business strategy, it's numbers, it's business plans, it's paper writing that all of us learned at Zalando, and it's like making the strategy accessible and understandable for others. This is something you can learn in theory, but this part of building strategic partnerships, I think this is something that people need in their DNA. I don't think you can learn it to a certain point, but if you don't have the empathy and the understanding of, going back to where we started in our talk at the beginning, don't understand which Lego bricks match together and which build a new product and which Lego bricks build a bigger house or a different house or help the purpose that it should be for. I think this is something you cannot learn. I think this is something that comes from your socialization potential in your childhood. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, but I think this is nothing you learn in university. This is also nothing you really can learn in business. Either you have it or you don't have it. At least this is what I learned with the people that I met in my career. Like, there's one of my friends, his name is KP, or his short name is KP. He did run strategic partnerships at Facebook and went then to Snap. And KP is a similar person. You feel that. All these people that work at strategic partnerships have a similar, I don't know how to call it, but you feel it, and then the magic happens with these people.
What does it take to find the right people? Because I think you mentioned it so many times today.
I think for partnerships, we don't talk about finding the right employees, right? We talk about finding the right partners for partnerships. I think it's let's say 3 points, right? Number one, I think, does this product fit to the values that your product has? I think this is important to check out. Is it the same values that you incorporate? Is it in the same? It needs not to be the same vertical, right? I can, let's say, let me example at Zalando. Why not doing a strategic partnership with Coca-Cola if it fits the purpose? But it needs at least to have the right values, and then both of them need to be 100% open and trustworthy. Going back to where does the magic happen in Silicon Valley historically? What did we miss in Europe to make the magic happen? We talked about this basis of trust and openness, and this is the same piece. What is important? Both brands. None of the two brands should say, I'm larger, I'm the better brand, I'm I'm the older brand. So both of them need to be on eye level. I think, and this is also what Facebook, Apple, and Google always did. They never gave me the feeling, oh, Sönke, he's the small business guy from a small startup in Germany. No, it was always an on eye level discussion. I think this is the second piece, the second ingredient that's important. If I, as a small startup, work with, let's say again, Coca-Cola, and this is not a sponsored podcast, but um, then Coca-Cola needs to understand that they share the same amount of data with me, they share the same trust with me, they give the same support, and don't say that they are the better one because they are established, they have money, whatever, right? I think so. This is the next level that is important. And last but not least, of course, both of them need to follow the same vision and goal for this partnership, right? That's the third point. So either you build a better product together for the market, where both of them bring their DNA and their knowledge in, or one partner, it fuels the growth of the other partnership, and there's a little bit of benefit in there. But I think this is the common goal and vision is the most important piece. And then what is important is companies need to know what is the difference between sales and business development again, because sometimes you just reach out to people that do sales, and then brand A wants to sell stuff to brand B and don't want to build new stuff with brand B and combine the strength. And if you reach out to salespeople, you don't want to sell something, you want to build something. And I think this is important, having then the right people in these departments. Yeah.
I love those points. So to make sure I got it right, so I think one you're saying is a value purpose match you mentioned. The other piece which I really liked is keeping the hierarchy out of a relationship, right? So you're saying living at the same level. I like that framing a lot. And the third you mentioned is the aligning on the goals. It's like we are all in together, to having the same vision and the goals together in that partnership. There's so many places we can go here, but I would love to continue with the journey in Zalando and to Tiny Monster. Let's go into Zalando and what happened there for you.
Yeah, what happened there for me? I think it was the first time. So I need to go one step back. I always thought in my career, especially when I went from IAM to Idagio, I was thought, why shouldn't you go to a corporate? And of course, Facebook and Google, I have so many friends there. There were opportunities that I could join them. So I had some discussions with them, joining these companies. But for me, it was always like, corporate, that's nice. American culture, is that culture for me within a corporate? I could have joined, but I was still the big fan of startups. Startups here, America, doesn't matter where in the world, but I'm a startup guy. And then having the opportunity at Zalando, for me, it was, of course, at the beginning, a big shock, right? It's a big shock when you worked about, let's say, from 2005 to, what was it? When was COVID-19? Let's say you worked about 15 years in your career in startups, and then you come in a corporate. And yes, now I know you and some other colleagues at Zalando say Zalando is not a corporate. Okay, right? I think this is very positive that Zalando people will never say they are corporate. I think it's positive to keep your values or to try to keep your startup DNA, this driving innovation DNA. I think it's important. But if you look from the outside, definitely Zalando is a corporate. They are a public listed company. They have different rules they follow. There's many processes you have to follow. And that was a big shock for me, because another mantra in my life, beside this heart and brain, that is important to make decisions, is people over processes. This is something that's clearly important for me. Of course, you need processes, or this is why I don't like in German the word Prozess, sounds very harsh. Prozess is also something when you go to court, by the way, you make something ein Prozess machen. It's something very negative. And of course, you need rules. Like we need in society and in life, you need rules how to live together, you need rules how to work together. So of course, rules are important to a certain extent. But coming into a corporate, you can clearly see that there is too many rules in certain areas that makes things slow. I think something very positive was the department that I joined. I think we made our own rules. We worked together within Size and Fit, which was to a certain extent, of course. If you go outside of Size and Fit, you have still to connect to other rules. But within our team, I think we were quite flexible how to work together. And I think no one knows better than you because you were there before I joined. That this was within this big ship Zalando. We still had our little, let's say, research kitchen and research where we could try out things. And I think this was quite positive, and this was one of the main drivers why I joined. I couldn't go to that extent that I would love to do partnerships with let's say, other brands, because then again, you had these rules that hindered you, not internal rules from other partners. Other partners weren't that open. We talked about, again, in the European fashion space, these companies sometimes are not open to share data. They're not allowed to share data. From the very moment you become public, let's make them like big shoe companies, for example, in Germany, you are not allowed to share data. And then you're missing the ingredients to make magic happen and to drive innovation. And at Size and Fit, you know that we were in need of data, of article data, of customer data, consumer data. And this was one of the biggest challenges, or potentially still is, for the team. I think this was a little bit hard to work in that area, but also interesting because we need to find new ways that no one did before to get to that data, right? But this is like, to summarize the Zalando time, it was amazing for me because I learned many things around, let's say, how to build strategy for larger companies, within larger companies, right? It was usually in companies up to 250 people max. Yamba was bigger, that was above 500, but that was the beginning of my career. Later, max 250, 200. And then learning how to build strategy, how to paint a picture of the strategic partnerships. Where should it be in 2, 3, 5 years? Making 5-year plans, writing proper papers. All of us know that this is hard at the beginning to learn that. It's a hard learning at the beginning to formulate the right words in a small on some pieces. But now it helped me a lot. Right now, I'm consulting startups to write the business strategy just in 4 pages, and I wouldn't have learned that before I joined Zalando. So for me, this was, I think, I mentioned that I took many things from my previous career step to the next. So how I build partnerships, what are the different ingredients that I learned from VUGA, what is important to me in strategic partnerships. And I think Zalando was a little bit, I wouldn't say cherry on top because that would be too much for this type of career, but I would say this was another ingredient that was missing for my professional development, how to build this business strategy also on a higher scale, right? And then I think you might ask that now. So you did mobile entertainment, all about mobile, then you moved from mobile to fashion tech, a lot of machine learning, of course, at Zalando, or most of that was machine learning and data. And what does Tiny Monster do? Again, the circle closes. Arno, who brought me to Zalando, was a co-worker of Yamba with me. And now the founders of Tiny Monster, Timo and Frank, these were colleagues at VUGA, at the gaming company. So they were always friends over the years, always followed what they did. They were very successful with the kids company, Fox and Sheep, that built apps for kids. And this is not subscriptions. It's really, to all the parents out there, download these apps. They're crazy good. And they had the idea years ago already, Frank, to build a speaker for kids to listen to audio plays. And I think you lived not your whole life in Germany and Europe, but you might know it. We have audio plays. This is where you really have different characters, different speakers. You have a dramaturgy in there. And this is very special to the European market. Now it comes also to the US, but it was very European special. And they have audiobooks, of course. This is something that you know, that you might be grown up with. And they had the idea quite early, but then it wasn't the right point in time, years ago, as always. But then the Tony box, I think most of the parents know that out there. It's a little box where you put a figurine on there, and then with an NFC chip, it unlocks the audio content. So one figure unlocks one audio content, one audio player, one audiobook. And this is where the market opened. They opened the market for others, that there is not only the CD anymore, because who has a CD player, Tom? I don't have. I still have my CDs, but I don't have a CD player. Where's the problem, right? Yeah. And Frank and Timo had the idea for Galacto. This is how the product is called. Several years ago, but they were focusing on Fox and Sheep and so on. But now it was the right point in time. Because they learned a lot about the kids market, they learned a lot about audio plays, they did their own audio plays for Fox and Sheep. And this is then where Galacto was born, let's say, several years ago, the real birth. But as a team and working together, I started last year in October, and I don't want too much advertisement, but in about 2.5 weeks, we have a partnership with one of the largest German retailers, and they're gonna sell the product in their store at the checkout. And you know, in physical retail, what it means for your product when it's at the checkout, where you find all the chewing gums and all the stuff and all the chocolate that kids should buy, right? And we have audio plays there. So, and if you look back to what we talked about bringing the right people together where magic happens, I think Frank and Timo had a good hand here to bring us together. Like there's 3 more colleagues, and they had a good hand here. One other colleague actually is also from VUGA. So we have people together that already worked in the past. So this work together, so this foundation of trust that we talked about to make magic happen. And now the circle closes where we started, what is missing us in Germany, right? The circle of trust, following the same goal. This is something that they brought into the DNA, and we are just 5 people. And imagine we are 5 people, potentially we have one part-time worker, but 5-6 people, and we right now in many retail stores in Germany, we are very successful. We are going to a wide retail stores next year. It's a tremendous growth space. We have now about 100, I think more than 150 contracts signed for different audio plays. We signed contracts with all music companies and publishers, like one example, like Universal, Sony Music, NBC Universal, etc., within this year, right? And people ask us, how many people are you? Are you 50? We said, no, we are 5 or 6. And again, having the right people with the right ingredients here that we talked several times about, you can make things happen. It's not about the amount of people, it's about the right people with the common mindset and the shared values. And this is also why I joined these guys, not only because I know them that long, I really believe in the product, in this product. I think the market needs it. And the interesting piece is it's offline. So now Vivek will ask me, oh, interesting, you came from mobile entertainment, then you worked in machine learning at Zalando and Science and Fit, and now you do an offline product. Yeah, it's 100% offline. There's no way to connect anything to this product. There's no way to connect Bluetooth, no way. But why? Yeah, because what is missing society and for kids is it's silence, it's space to think about yourself, it's space to learn, it's space to listen, taking time to listen. And I think this is what kids need as well. It's to disconnect again from this overload of data that flows into your brain the whole day from different channels, and focus, right? So kids learn again to focus on listening to audio plays, on learning. We also have great audio books that is not about fiction, it's about learning. And this is something I want to give give kids also back. It's time for the family with their parents, with themselves, with the content they listen to learn and to involve. And this I was really convinced when I got the opportunity to join the team, joining their team. And now growing a product that can't grow only online. So not only the product is offline, no, one of my channels is also brick and mortar stores. Because a product like this, of course, you buy online as well, right? Online is one of the most important channels for all of us nowadays, like Amazon, your own website, etc. But we talk about kids' products. And if parents want to buy a gift, or the grandmother or the friends, sometimes it's the gift store around the corner, it's the bookstore around the corner. Oh, there's a birthday, I forgot something. No time. Christmas season, DHL is too slow maybe. So you do need the brick and mortar stores to grow your product. And this is a challenge that I was happy to accept, because it's really interesting to learn about this part of business that I haven't touched before. It's kids and it's offline. And trust me, doing a product for kids, and I get goosebumps again now when I think about it. Doing a product for kids gives you so much back, because you see the glow in the eyes of your own kids. In my case, it's my nieces. When I sent them a new audio token for Galacto, like 2 days ago, my niece's birthday, she had glowing eyes, right? And this gives you so much feedback. And who else can say in his career, I go now to toys fairs? Amazing, Vivek. And it's Nuremberg Toys Fair in January again. I'm already excited to see all the new toys out there. So I think now at my step of my career right now, I'm again a little bit, I found again the kid in myself. Let me face it like that. So the professional kid, maybe this is where I evolved to over the years, the professional kid. And I love to keep that and to grow that. Yeah.
I like the spark in your eyes when you talk about it. And I think it's such an interesting product and product category. I also feel like you mentioned about offline. There's a general element about physical entities discovering these tokens, and the transaction of a physical transaction and giving, which I really enjoyed. And I think the adults also need to find some way to disconnect and get to a physical experience like this. So who knows, I'm quite curious if you want to also move away, or not away, but also additionally look for some grown up kids like myself. So yeah, I really enjoyed how you put it.
We get the questions, Vivek. Trust me. Sorry to interrupt you. We get those questions also for elderly people or people that have handicapped people, right? Because it's a pretty simple to use product,
Yeah.
and I think all of us, what we need to learn again. You and I know that still. When we were young, we haven't had a mobile phone. Internet was born 1993-ish, 1991-ish, like for consumers, not the birth of the internet in general, but for mainstream.
Yeah.
I remember that when I had my first internet connection, but before all of us were offline.
Yeah.
And I think learning that again is quite important for kids and the society, because again, coming to where we started, I think this is also where innovation is being made. You need to take time and space to disconnect, to give your brain freedom to come up with new ideas. And this is why I think a certain type of being offline is important, especially when you have to learn what kids do, right? Kids need this space to learn for their life.
Absolutely. We're probably in the last parts of our session today, and I really enjoyed listening to you and learning from the stories that you're sharing. Sönke, if you have, imagine that you're given a chance to really build Germany and Europe as a tech powerhouse. And you can start from anywhere. You have all the authority in the world. You have all the power in the world. What would you do? Where would you start?
It's a good question. It's a very good question, because I think even if you have power and authority, you won't do those changes with power and authority, and you won't do those changes from top, right? And this doesn't work in any company of the world. I think you and I know that also from Zalando. It doesn't work. Top-down management never works. It's always bottom up. And I think it's really, really important that you build better networks and better support from the government, but also from the different companies and startups around yourself, that you share things openly. And the government also doesn't support that, right? I think there's different ingredients. One piece is the mindset of the people, that you can only change if you show them what's the outcome of sharing information. So what we talked about my career, about the companies I worked at. So what is beneficiary for you if you share and if you're open? So people need to learn that. But on the other hand, I think our country needs changes in the economy, but also in infrastructure, digital infrastructure, without, and this is where the power of authority comes in. I would do some changes in infrastructure without asking the people if they want it or not. I would just do it. I would change. I would make digital payment as a must everywhere. Of course, you can still use cash, but I would say you have to accept card payment. This is the very simple in daily life where it starts, right? You have to use DSL. You have to have proper, if you're a landlord and you build a house, you have to build in Wi-Fi in every room, right? Of course, I pay as a consumer, but you have to digitalize everything. I think this is something where I think I'm not a big fan of a dictatorship, not at all. I'm a big fan of our German democracy and how it works, but I think there are certain things when it comes to infrastructure, especially in Germany. Sometimes Germans need to be forced to find their luck and to understand their luck. So if we have this, and there is many great people in our government that try to change it, and people that come from startups, that build startups, and I think this is now the second point. I think much more people that worked in startups should go and support the government and be elected, but not work for their own wealth in here, what we see in the US right now. I think this is not the right way to build a government for your own success. But I think it's important that the government learns. And this is, again, we talked about this, learning from failures, learning from each other. And this is where governments, nowhere in the world, no government in the world is built for learning from mistakes from the past. We see that everywhere in the world, either it's a dictatorship or it's a democracy or it's whatever. Governments are not built to learn from mistakes of the past and don't do mistakes again. And sometimes they listen too much to the people what they want to need. Sometimes not, of course, in many areas of the world not. But if I have the authority and I would really do a big push of infrastructure, no matter if people like that or not. I would support different parts of the economy less. I think we put a lot of money in certain areas of the economy we don't need to put money because it's just not the future. We need to shift our economy from let's say working with hands more to working with the brain. I think this is something of course not everyone can do that. It's important not to lose people that maybe don't want it or are not able to do it or whatever, but you can do a shift in the economy, right? And I think this is something where Germans need to push. Germans like the state of the art. They're like, oh, it's fine. Why should I change something? And I think going back to that point, what you asked, if I have the authority, I would give the country a little push to go beyond and to look what's beyond there, what's in the future, how can we bring more technology in our daily life. But again, technology where it helps people, not where it hinders people, right? And there is a lot of technology. Why is Alexa not successful? Alexa never helped people. It was just there. It didn't help. It was just there listening to you, and people didn't understand, why do I need Alexa to switch on my light? There was no purpose for it. So if we build, I think if we in Germany or in Europe or in the rest of the world as well, if we understand building purposeful technology that helps the society and environment, And this is also why I went into what I do right now. And also I went to Zalando. With Zalando, I try to reduce returns to help the environment, technology, driving, support for the environment. Now I try to support the education of our kids, which I think is the most important, precious thing we have to drive our future. So it's at the very beginning of the circle of life. And yeah, I think these are the two things I would support with technology. And everyone who builds technology to go to space, to be honest, of course, it's important to do research. It's important to do science that drives us as humans to look what's beyond Earth, what's beyond here. But I think we have so many problems to solve on Earth right now if it comes to science and environment. And this is where I would, as a European country, and this is why I don't say Germany, for me it's Europe. As the country of Europe, I would especially focus with technology on that. And we have a big chance here if you look what Germany drove over the past 10, 20 years when it comes to renewable energies. And I think this is our chance in Europe, using technology for our environment, for the society, potentially also for education. Let's see. But this is our chance in Europe to drive this. And this is where I wouldn't build the next Uber. I wouldn't build, who needs another Uber? We see this is not a successful business model in Europe. So when I have the chance, I would really see how to use technology for purposeful products. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about, but we haven't talked about yet as we start closing in?
I think so we talked about heart and brain. We talked about like my mantras a little bit, right? We talked about strategic business development. I think something is, and trust. We talked about trust a lot. I think last but not least, what's important, what everyone should keep, and like what I always say to my team members is, it's important that you say no. I think learning from failures, using heart and brain and data, and then last but not least, having the ability to say no, and of course why, but to take the risk if someone, even if it's the lead, your CEO, if this person wants something and you have a reason not to do it and can back it with data or informed papers or strategy, keep it for yourself to say no, because this is also important. Saying no drives innovation, because usually it means that you don't do a mistake again. And that you learn something that someone else doesn't know and didn't learn, but you can help this information or to drive this decision. And I think this is something that I think is important for everyone in his or her career, is really keeping that for yourself to say no in the right point in time, of course, with informed information behind it, why you say no. But I think this is one of the ingredients also in my career, helped me a lot to find out, is this the right or wrong, helping people with my learnings from the past, and vice versa, people saying no to me, because no one is the wisest person on earth, right? We can learn from each other. So this is why I think everyone should keep that for him or herself.
I love that. I love the ending about saying no, driving focus. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to go through so many different parts of journey. As you know, we could have spent a lot of time on different topics. I would love for you to be back. We can take maybe so many hours just going through some of the rabbit holes that we talked about, but time is always behind us. I really appreciate taking the time, Sönke. I really enjoyed talking to you, learning about a broad range of topics, and it's needless to say thank you so much again for coming over, and I really appreciate the time, and I hope to see you again on this.
Thank you, Vivek, for the opportunity. It was a pleasure. Maybe due to a new format with a bigger round and having 2 or 3 people
That'll be fun.
in one podcast, that would be interesting.
I can already think about names. I can already think about names in my head who can come over.
Same here. Great.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.